The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Oh boy, good morning class and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior web headmaster, Jared Bachman-Stubbs, and joining me as always is your resident Green Lantern Professor, Travis Grossman.
So I keep forgetting to buy cans.
Yeah.
So instead I have this protein shake that's coffee flavored and also has the caffeine of a cup of coffee. Because I keep forgetting to buy cans.
Hey, it'd be like that sometimes. And joining us for a carnage-filled review, we got our old pal Armin from Comic Book Cast.
Hey, I am so excited to talk about Venom. Let There Be Carnage. Just gonna drink my can.
Yes. So the Carnage has let there been, and we've all seen the movie, and
yeah, somehow this is the one.
Is this the Poe Dameron? Somehow I saw the movie. Somehow.
Somehow this is the one I saw opening day.
Armin, funny little background. Ever since Travis got grandfathered into the old comic book show, I kept telling him, I got to sit you down and make you watch Venom. Like, I need to watch you watch Venom. And he's like, no, not going to happen. And then I found out he was seeing it opening day on Friday. And Thursday night, after we had just finished recording our Star Wars Visions review, I finally just locked him inside the studio and put Venom on the TV behind me. And it was a sight to behold. So I think I'm going to start there. Travis, how did you feel about Venom 1, being the most the freshest into this as of Thursday night?
I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. I would go as far as say I didn't hate it. It just felt so. I felt like I was watching two different movies that got spliced into each other. You know? And I have a theory about this one.
About Let There Be Carnage?
Yeah. And what happened in the editing room. But
there was an editing room? Wow, that's news.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I saw what people liked in it, which surprised me because I didn't expect to. And the things that I was making fun of it for, I wasn't making as I was making fun of it, I wasn't thinking this is the worst thing I've ever seen and I'm going to mock this. I was like, oh, this is really funny. No one reacting the way they should was just made me chuckle.
I hear that. I'm going to bounce myself out for one moment. You guys keep talking.
I'll give you my thoughts. Boy, Venom 1, that film to me, until recently, we did an audio commentary for CBC finally in preparation of the second one. It held this movie, I enjoyed this movie was great, but it held that in retrospect, watching the audio commentary, watched the movie at a perfect time, in a perfect location, at a perfect time in my life where the wife and I just took a vacation to Aruba. It was our third day in. Prior to the film, we got plastered on a pirate boat where it was just like everything. So we saw the movie. We're like, Aruba's great. So I went into it. I was like, I'm going to watch it. And the first film has moments that I genuinely really like in it. besides the third act in its entirety, which was black goo, black background smashing into each other. So going, into the second one, it was like, is there going to be less of that? Thankfully, there was, but less of the mess that was the first film's ending, I think, is exactly what it needed. The runtime in the second one is rapid, but again, a lot of the first film for me and my wife was held up by, we were in Aruba, we were drunk as one could be in Aruba, and watching this film in the most comfortable theater I've ever experienced. So it was like everything going in it. I do legitimately like the second film more, but I think
Agreed.
that's all the circumstances surrounding it are a short runtime where I never felt like I was wasting my time. It's like, this is only an hour and a half. I can endure another 45 minutes and it'll be over. Where the first film was like, the Chinese lady just got off the plane now. It's been an hour. Come on, get the thing going. Like it's interesting. I do like the second film a lot more though, especially the ending, which I assume we'll talk about and what that means.
Yeah. If there's one thing I really want to hammer home with this one, 'cause I saw this with my girlfriend in Pittsburgh, and like we've been like, this is on like the short list of movies I've ever seen in IMAX. So like that was also just inherently way more fun, like the big ass screen and the speakers that you can feel rumbling your insides. But just within like the first couple minutes with the prologue with Shriek and Cletus in the mental institution, I looked over to my girlfriend. I'm like, this is already a better movie. Like this already, the way it was shot and edited within 5 minutes, it outclassed its predecessor. And I was like already more engrossed in what this movie had to do. Like I get a little annoyed because I think people get a little pretentious and precious when they want to talk shit on superhero movies and like, oh, the MCU, like then and like there are valid criticisms to be had with the cinematography, that it can sometimes be a little bit boring, like here's just 5 people standing in a line with the airport fight type criticisms. And there are good faith and bad faith versions of that. But like this movie, like from the jump, from the way it was trying to engage on like a film language level, I was already way more invested than I was in 5 minutes than I was for the entirety of the first Venom. And this movie also, and I dipped out for a second because the construction I told you guys about is probably going to be happening right outside the studio. So this is going to be fun. We'll see what happens with that. But this movie, you guys may have said this already, absolutely knows what it is. And instead of having this weird bipolar disorder with the tone, where the first one, like I to this day, I can't tell how much of the lobster restaurant is supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell if they're trying to portray that as like Eddie's tweaking out and this is scary for him, or how much of it we're supposed to laugh out of him, like resting in the lobster thing, biting the head off of the lobster. None of it is helped by the goofy ass voice Tom Hardy does for Eddie Brock.
And that kind of leads into my theory about Let There Be Carnage, is that I think like last minute, like a couple months ago, they had a 2-hour version of this movie, maybe even longer, and then went, oh God, we did it again.
Yeah.
We have enough to make it look like we meant it to be like this. Let's scrap everything else, do bad ADR where we need to do bad ADR, and it should be fine.
I think that stuck out to me like a sore thumb when they're like, hey, we really need to explain Cletus's origin, how it mirrors what happens with Eddie, even though we've never established that Eddie has this abusive whole history behind him, and that's why he's alone, and this kind of, Tom Hardy looks homeless the entire movie, like type mentality. And they never explain anything with Shriek. And a part of me was like, boy, they cut over to this like hand-drawing cartoon of Cletus being like, I pushed my grandma down the stairs, just because they're like, we need to cut all of that and just make it a quick 30-second snippet. I'm like, boy, that came out of nowhere. And like, there's a lot of cuts in this film that are the exact same thing. You're just like, are you gonna? Oh no, we're just gonna brush that line of dialogue off and go straight to the next scene. Okay, like there's a lot of that. It felt again, it felt like there was a longer movie, probably another hour on this, and they were just like, what if we just don't include any of this? It's like that was probably a smart choice because it would have got a little too Venom 1 where you're just like, please just get to the next scene. You're like Venom 1, there were scenes where they hang on the aftermath of a scene for so long. You're like, is this a bit? Or is this an actual bit you guys are doing? Like I couldn't tell. It's yeah.
And I think that you could very quickly, especially with trying to portray Cletus Cassidy in any way, if you really want to, that he is this depraved monster, I think Cletus Cassidy, save for the alien symbiotic monster that's attached to him, is probably one of the most realistic comic book villains of all time, just because he's a serial killer. Like, he's just a straight up serial killer. He's a vicious monster, and the mentality and person he is pre-symbiote very easily could and has existed in the real world. And I think trying to balance what makes Cletus Cassidy tick in a movie next to Venom at a rave and trying to do like, thank you, one person, like shit next to Cletus, like, my daddy abused me, so I killed him. Like, it's you're gonna have the same problem you had with the first one, where you have the bits with Venom where he's like, jump, pussy, and like right next to, oh, here's Carlton Drake brutally murdering homeless people, and Eddie has like severe depression and PTSD, and like try again, it's that weird tonal, what are you going for? I can't tell. That I think would end up happening if they tried to really dig into Cletus more. So I think them letting Woody Harrelson, either in the way they shot the movie or in the edit, turn Cletus Cassidy kind of into an almost Joker-esque, like, I'm having fun being evil, or like he's having a gay old time, like on like a Palpatine level. I'm a bad person and it makes me happy.
See, my whole idea was like, I was hoping that they wouldn't even do any of the abuse things. Be like, why is Carnage call himself Carnage? It's like, I almost wish that Cletus Cassidy was like, from birth, I knew what I was meant to do. It's kill, 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 kill. I almost hope they would have just done that, because when they try to add those little layers to the character about the abuse and stuff to try to make him more sympathetic with Eddie, I was like, I kind of almost feel like they shouldn't have, because the comics have more time to deal with that, right? This film did not. So it's like, if they would have just made him an evil, maniacal, I kill for the fun of it, I would have been like, congrats for being aware of what Carnage sort of is in this film. And I do appreciate to some level that there was more depth to him. But again, I think a lot of that was left on the cutting room floor, where they were like, if we cut it, faster movie, yes, but then something is left missing. So I'm kind of like torn between what I wish we could have had and what I maybe wish, I hope we had, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand that. And I also like, spoilers. I kind of question why they even went to that extent of like showing, like, it's like they showed the little back, like the little cartoon, which was really stylistically done. I really like the way they did that. And before I forget it, the motif of like them killing spiders, like going into this movie, because like I knew about the post-credit scene. I told, like, Travis doesn't give a shit about spoilers. I told him about it. Mm-hmm. Granted, at the time, all I knew was like the very bare bones Spider-Man is in the post-credit scene. So like going in knowing, I liked the reoccurring motif of them like screwing with spiders. Whether or not, like, because there's no way that wasn't intentional. That is such that is such a specific thing. They were hinting. But they have Cletus is like, you didn't tell my part of the story. You didn't tell him about how I was abused. I was this, I was that. For it to turn around and like Venom murder him and granted, I'm not rushing to the defense of Cletus Cassidy, but Cletus couldn't walk. Like that, that wasn't he killed the bad guy in a fight. He picked him up and finished him off. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not that my heart is breaking for the death of Cletus Cassidy necessarily, but to do the whole like, oh, he's a product of an abusive household. Like this monster was not created in a vacuum. You know, like we got here somehow. Trying to do that and then just have Venom like it almost felt like Ralph Boner. Like it had hints of Ralph Boner with WandaVision. Where
I like
Eddie,
how you said there for a second though. You're like, how did we get here? And it's like, how did this thing get to where it is? It's like, I question that from the beginning of the film when they're like, Shriek, she's a mutant, correct? So there's a whole mutant institute, Ravencroft, and they're loaded with mutants, but we never before said anything like this. Like, they literally just jumped. They quite literally jumped the Venom shark, and we're like, bah, here's everything. You're like, it just blindsides you. But here's the thing. You're talking about the ending of the film where Venom kills Carnage. We've been on here minus introductions for 10 minutes, and that's the entire film. We've just covered it. Like, they fight. What else is there's nothing else there? You're just like, all right, yeah, okay. Like,
well, there's the really weird rom-com will they won't they between Eddie and Venom that I want to talk about. And like the way
which is what everyone wanted out of the first film.
The way they really brush over some shit with that element. But I'm just like I was kind of like I enjoyed it and I thought it was funny. Like the Ralph Boner comparison coming from, you know, Eddie having that Eddie's trying to I'm sorry all of this happened this way. I'm sorry this happened to you. I'm sorry you became this, and you know, Venom just fuck this guy, kills him. You know, like that's where again it felt kind of Ralph Boner. Like there was a lot of it feels like it's about to be this emotional scene, and then Venom just executes him. Which I was slightly peeved by. I mean, I just because I want more Carnage, not like I want more.
Even explain why Carnage is really bad or feared, other than Venom's like, that's the red one, bad. Why?
Yeah, that was the thing for me where it was the same when he fought Riot in the first one. He was like, he has all these things you've never seen.
He's got shit you've never even seen.
And it's like, Venom, you are also just sludge. Why can't you do that?
Yeah. Even though Venom does in the first film, he makes a blade to fight back with and stuff. And in this film, I'm like, did you forget? You can do what he's doing. Literally, you just did it.
And then he's like, that's a red one. No, that's it. That's all we know. We fear the color red in the Venom household. I see.
I hated that line in the trailer because part of me is like, oh, they're never going to explain why he said that. When I saw the trailer, it's like, oh shit, that's a red one. I'm like, okay, can you tell me why that matters? It's just like the first one where because the Venom, I think part of it has to do with the way that Tom Hardy is directed as Venom. Is that the way his inflection is in that with that character? Some sentences sound like there's going to be a follow-up. And I think if Tom Hardy just gave that line without him altering his voice or any post-production to make him sound monstrous, it would have been a very flat, oh shit, that's a red one? Supposed to imply, I have not seen this before and I'm freaked out. Where the way the inflection on it in the one we get in the movie sounds like it's a red one, and that's important.
I think that also that whole sequence of Venom retreating in that moment might be my favorite scene in the film because it's so dumb because Cletus acknowledges that they're about to have the end movie fight. Yeah. Because he could just go full Carnage and kill Eddie right there. But instead he's like, Eddie, come on, man. We were gonna do this thing. Come on.
I really liked that,
baby.
I really liked that. There's just something really fun about because the bathos and self-awareness of most superhero movies at this point, where most superhero movies you can't get more than 2 acts in without having the obligatory person without powers calls attention to how ridiculous this shit is. Mm-hmm. And then like everybody goes, okay, we're all in on the joke. This is silly. This is stupid. This was written in the 60s. Back to your regularly scheduled programming. With with this, like this is the first time, like you said, Travis, there was an acknowledgement of like, hey, this is the part where we do the cool fight. You know?
I literally like I got a message from Mitch and he goes, hold up. Did Carnage literally just say Venom? Wait to put the colon in there and then say let there be carnage. I was like, oh, he did. He literally says the film's title with the colon, pause, and everything. Like they were so aware of this thing when the battle started. They're like, and you know what? Credit where it's due. If you watch that final fight with the bell, the way the sound ricochets from side to side when they're fighting and morphing, Andy Serkis understands how these two symbiotes move and how the sound affects them. Like you could tell he's a fan. But, and there's always a but with this film. You're like, but also, shut your brain off and get ready for Michael Bay Transformers delivery of everything at the same time. Which again, you know, it's a give or take. At least this film is enjoyable, unlike all the Transformers films. So, yeah.
There is that, and I think that there's something with Serkis that I think can't go without mentioning that, you know, the mocap guy, the fact that one of the things that he absolutely hits out of the park, like you said, is how they move and feel. That does not surprise me at all. And I feel like an idiot that did not occur to me when the moment his getting this job was announced. That like the first thing that didn't go through my head was, oh, like they're going to move really cool. Like he understands how to bring this kind of thing to life. Yeah, the fight was really cool though. I really enjoyed it.
I also like that we continued the tradition of the bad guy symbiote having a beak, as compared to like Venom has this very flat face, and then both Riot and Carnage to deliberate who was who have this very like beaked face.
I almost wish that like Carnage didn't have the tongue because I think he looks cooler without it. There's something just so much creepier with him drawn without it, like where his mouth just conforms into the teeth. Like I really like that look for it, but I understand why they did it. It's like, well, where his tongue gone? Because all the other symbiotes have it. I guess we got to put it in there. So
Yeah,
I get it, but you know, it is that element of it. And something else you said, like the way they look, it's like very pronounced. Like if you look at Venom 1, Riot and Venom are the same thing. There's a kind of elongated Venom's face, but here, the amount of tentacles and spikes and stab things coming off of them organically looked really cool in almost every scene because, you know, he kept, I don't know, I don't know how to describe, like he looked like a like slimy jelly thing that you could believe was made up of that contents, where because it was all like kind of like organic and moving through them. Like he looked real. Like when the design pops and it's red and it's flowy, you could see a lot more of it. And thank God the church was lit because you can actually tell what was going on in the fight. Like you could really tell the detail in Venom and Carnage was much better than previously. So again, it showed.
Yeah, there's a big upgrade in the CGI here where I like, again, within seconds of seeing Venom himself, he looks so much better. I also, speaking about, you know, Carnage and how he moves and how he fights and everything, the prison break scene, that was the villain has a room full of fodder that they can just absolutely brutalize, like Rogue One Vader hallway level.
Yeah.
Of like, I like you are here for me to viciously slaughter you and sit back while I score all of the style points. You know, like I kept like that was immediately like from the moment like he like pulls the one guard back through the smoke and then launches out. I was like, this is the Carnage version of the Vader hallway scene.
I do want to ask, I know this has been brought up since you're talking about it. A lot of people said this scene and that film would be better if it was R-rated. I honestly don't think it would, because then it'd just be gratuitous blood everywhere. I'm like, the fact that they didn't make it R-rated, I think was a strength because they couldn't just go, we're adult for 12-year-olds because R-rated and they snuck into the film. Like, I thought it was kind of more creative to use the smoke and cut away right when he stabs somebody and show their face, but not like the hole in their chest. Because you're like, it's better with imagination. Like, I think Alien 1 to Alien 2 proves that. Alien 1 is technically a way better film because you don't see the alien, it's the built up. Alien 2, they're like, you like 10,000 aliens storming machine guns? You're like, yes, I prefer that film, but hiding, I think, worked in the favor of this film because they didn't have to go too gross and be like, brr, blood.
I think it's an interesting conversation to be had. I think that there's a way to I would like to see how they handle an R-rated version of this. You know, I would like to see how Andy Serkis would tackle an R-rated version of this because I like what he did with the PG-13.
Did you ever watch the first Expendables?
No.
So that film famously started shooting as R-rated, and they said, "Oh no, we need to get more people to see this film." So they reshot all the scenes to make it PG-13. Then in the post-production, they realized everybody wanted it to be R-rated, so they just added gratuitous blood splatter in post-production that splats all over the screen after every gunshot. You're like, something was missing, and most people look at that film and go, this should have been PG-13 like intended. And I agree with you. I think had it been from the ground up, Andy Serkis is allowed a R-rated film, I think it'd be something completely different. But they were like, we got to play up to the audience of the first, which is edgy 13-year-olds who want to watch this film. So give it to them, you know?
Yeah, with the sensibilities and like what we see on display from Andy Serkis in this movie, I would trust him with doing this as an R-rated flick. I think he would know how to make that like specifically the Carnage scene work and be scary. You know, like here we get like it's action scary. I would like the version of this that is a straight up like this monster broke out of death row and we're all gonna die. You know, that's where I think
definitely.
Like,
I don't think we would get because like the R-rated cut of BVS, a lot of the scenes are just the same scene with a little bit of really bad CGI blood. Or grape jelly, whichever they had on hand at the time.
And I should say I'm not necessarily like hoping they do an Expendables or Batman v Superman with this on
obviously.
But a version of this where like it's shot to include seeing Carnage like rip people apart.
I mean, I will say I think a part of the consensus on making this PG-13 was, remember, this film was supposed to start shooting in late August, September of 2019. Coincidentally enough, that's when Spider-Man was missing from the MCU and Sony took him back, and they didn't start shooting this film till Spider-Man was back in the MCU. I'm going to guess this film was at one point supposed to be R-rated, but Feige was like, hey, if you guys want to play in the MCU playground and Venom's coming over, we got to stream this on Disney Plus, which they did get the license to do. So I think there's some
and
of
I'm
that
looking
in here.
forward to because this movie, I don't know, are there any movies on Disney? Yeah, well, they have the X-Men movies, and there's like
and
there's
I mean,
F-bombs in those. Yeah,
the post-credit scene of this film is what everybody's buzzing about because when that happened, my theater was honestly, it was kind of like an explosion of shock and weeping because people are like, oh, they're actually going to pull this off. I didn't think this was working, you know, and I think it delivers. The rating of the film leads into it, and I want to see what happens next because that ending was truly, you know, unexpected. It would have been better if we didn't get it spoiled literally 3 weeks ago by Andy Serkis being like, why don't you stay for the post credits if you're wondering if Spider-Man shows up? It's like, okay, you know, I see what you're saying, Serkis.
I'll do you one better. It'd be even better if Grace Randolph didn't take to Twitter within 30 seconds. But
that too, and then everybody else just said, yeah, she's right. Yeah, that's true.
But that was just me. I had to throw shade at Randolph. I'm contractually obligated. I do. Okay, I want to talk Eddie and Venom, and then we can talk post-credit scene because there's this like little bits in the post-credit scene I really want to talk about with you guys. I get that Venom isn't supposed to be like a hero. So, quick question: can anybody hear the sawing happening outside right now?
No.
Cool.
Not really.
Bullet dodged. Um, I know Eddie's or Venom's not supposed to be like a straight up superhero or anything like that. Am I the only one who was like a little bit perturbed by the amount of people Venom kills just because he needs a host?
Yeah, that was a lot. He just
Like,
keeps jumping from person to person. You're like, oh, is Miss Chang still alive? I'm not sure.
that's what I said. That's what I said. I looked over whenever like Anne was symbioted. Whenever she breaks Eddie out, I looked right at my girlfriend. I'm like, if Mrs. Chen died, I'm giving this movie an F. Like, I'm not kidding. If Chen is dead, this movie does not get a passing grade for me. No, she seemed like she was handling it better than most, so
Yeah.
I'm assuming she was a viable host for Venom, which was funny. But that rave scene was so funny and is going to be the source of many memes to come over the next forever.
He was wrong.
Everyone's like, yeah, fuck Eddie. Like, everybody, it was just so fun and so
I'm just
cute.
waiting for the mashup of Eddie and Zemo in the club because it's happening. That is going to happen. And
Eddie in the
need
club, Venom in the club, Zemo in the club, and then it's all going to be like next to Spider-Man 3, just take on this right next to it. Are you guys familiar with the story about Tom Hardy and Little Sims and how the song Venom and not the weird Eminem one ended up in this movie?
No.
So sometime after the first Venom had come out, Tom Hardy became friends with the rapper Little Sims, who's on stage performing in the rave scene, and had a song called Venom, which is playing in the credits, like the main credits, like they do the new Eminem song during like the colorful credits and stuff. But it's a song she's performing at the rave and then is in the scrolling credits. And they became friends. He found out that she had a song called Venom, and he very much was like talking to somebody like, we're putting her in the next one. This is non-negotiable. She's in the movie. And we'll just happen to be performing a song called Venom as Venom walks up to her.
This is some Ninja Turtles 2 Vanilla Ice on stage thing right now. This is big news.
Yeah. Now the question is, do you prefer Go Ninja Go or Venom? To each their own on that one. But yeah, I really like the Eddie Venom relationship here. I was very entertained by it. The scene of them beating each other up was just, like, it's just so goofy and silly, but I loved every second of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also, and I don't know why I got so excited for it. I would like to think that future comic book stories can't just say the name of a run or story arc and I won't go apeshit. Like, I really hope that isn't just a thing that my brain has a response to.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying if I didn't cheer a little bit every time they said Lethal Protector. Like, it got me really excited that they just said it. He was like, we should call ourselves the Lethal Protector. I was like, you're goddamn right you should. It's a cool ass name, buddy.
And a mask.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised we didn't get a scene of Carnage wrapping his body in an American flag, being like, Carnage USA. It's like, oh my God, come on, movie. Like, they're gonna save that from when he comes back through the multiverse, of course. But this movie is so aware of what it is. Like a scene like that, you just go, cinema. That's it right there. We've peaked, humans. We've peaked.
It's a better version of literally a joke you made like 1,000 years ago, because I've been listening for forever, with the whole like whenever they were talking about trying to make a Sinister Six movie,
Oh.
and the idea of like how they would try to introduce Otto Octavius, and like just the shitty Sony writing couldn't help but be like, wow, Otto, you're so good at playing chess. It's like you have 8 arms. It's like this is the better version of that type of terrible line where it's like where it's completely hammy and self-referential for no good reason, but it works because it's fun. Also, there's just really strong performances here. Like, I don't think anybody really shit the bed.
I think the only one that's quite clearly here for a check is Michelle Williams. She was like, "You want me to do what again? Okay, I'll stand and shake my head yes at Eddie and go, oh, our relationship is still over, Eddie, and then collect my millions and leave." Like, she was kind of like phone it in the first film, and here again, it was the same thing. So it's like, whatever. Otherwise, though, everybody else seems to be like, we're having fun with this. Like, everybody knew the type of film they were in, so that helps. Where they're not trying to deliver some sort of high art, and they're like it's like, no, you knew what you were getting in for.
I really love Woody Harrelson in this role too. Like, he was so good, like it just worked. And I liked, one of the things I really liked was the way that they could have very easily done the whole like Woody, like the whole, oh, I'm crazy, but like I have this like complex understanding of the world, and with like his weird like speaking in riddle and reference thing that he does. I like that most of it was nonsense. Like, they very easily could have had it be that like Carnage, Cletus, whatever, is constantly saying something profound. Or at least presented as though it's profound. And just like, I think that would have been played out. I think it would have been weird. I don't like when stories try to like have, not every serial killer has to be Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, I can imagine that there's a version of this where they watched Batman v Superman, and there's a scene where Cletus is like, "Hey, Eddie, the red Spandaroos are coming. The red Spandaroos are coming. Ahoy, hoy!" And you're like, "Why?" It's like, but we need to tell you Spider-Man is coming without telling you. Ooh, it's like, I really do appreciate that too, because they could have done that thing where it's like, get it? Our killer is so smart that he's a killer because he's so smart. It's like, guys, no, just make him who he is, and you did. Cool, thanks. I appreciate it.
And he has a couple of banger lines.
Oh, he does.
Like, every so often he'll have like a really good one. Like, I got chills while he was doing the Macbeth thing, and then like and like he was like, eyes are crazy, something wicked this way comes. I was like, that was metal as hell. Like, it was almost like last podcast on the left. All that was missing was Henry Zabrowski. Like, that's all that was missing from that. Like, really, that made me feel some kind of way. Okay. Post-credit scene.
Best thing about the film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. It was almost better because I knew a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Because we lead into it, and you had told me, all right, Spider-Man shows up. And I'm like, cool. So I'm watching this end credit scene, and I'm like, okay, so it's going to like just show Spider-Man on the TV and like a breaking news thing. And we're going to learn that Venom's been in the MCU the whole time, and I'm going to hate it. This is fine.
Well, because I'm going to pause for a second. That was a conversation we had going into this, that we had on air, where it was like, in theory, there's a way you can bullshit Venom into the MCU by retconning it so that all of this craziness happened during the blip, and that, the reason there aren't any Avengers showing up is that most of them are dead. And there's just so much other crazy shit going on in a post-blip world that, there's alien monsters in San Francisco kind of gets overlooked. And as you said, that wouldn't have worked for you.
I think I would have been in the same boat, just because like that explanation to me would have felt a little lazy. It's like, but they're talking about alien life for the first time, but you're telling me New York was attacked by aliens a couple of times. But it's like, that was my expectation. I'm like, if they do that, that's lazy. But I was like, I think they'll have to do the whole multiverse thing just because of what they set up with everything. And obviously,
I don't
the end
know.
result.
They even showed a trailer for No Way Home at the start of the movie, and I still didn't see it coming. So when the boom happened, and like the orange shift and everything, my jaw dropped. I was like, they just went for it.
Yeah.
They just whole hard went for it. They were like, "Nah, you just saw the trailer. You know what this means. You know what this is for."
A part of me is still in disbelief that that's how they did it. Like, a part of me wanted to stand up and start clapping because Sony finally, like, forced their way into the MCU in the laziest way possible.
Just throwing elbows.
Like, they literally just go, what if we take Venom and we just put him in the MCU and we let Kevin do all the heavy lifting? And that's what he's going to have to do now, because Kevin now has to take Venom and everything else that comes with, all the baggage and Craven that's coming, and be like, this has now got to work just so I can keep Spider-Man in the MCU. So they're going to do it. But it shocks me that he approved of this way, being like, what if Venom is in New York, but before the post-credit scene, he's clearly in like Hawaii or something, but then from New York, he's going to come back to Hawaii when the blip hits? It doesn't make any sense. So, like, why does he change locations and geography and time of day? Whatever. He's in the MCU. Spider-Man's on the TV. They're gonna fight. They're gonna sell merchandise. That's all I care about, honestly. Just seeing those two versions of the characters. So,
yeah, what I really like is the way that, with Loki, there's all the speculation that the scene where he who remains, Immortus Kang, whatever you want to call him, he's like doing his whole, and we've just crossed the threshold.
mm-hmm.
And the idea that the threshold being crossed is the moment in WandaVision, because it happens at the same time, where Wanda, like, for the first time, identifies herself as the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
I like that idea. I like the idea, and I have liked the idea that starting with Infinity War, space-time is getting weared away at.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, the first snap that Thanos lets loose, like, reverberates out so hard. Like, and they even said they could spot the planet Thanos was on in Endgame from how many galaxies away, just because of the sheer amount of radiation and energy he was putting off from his second snap. And I kind of like the idea that type of, like, weird mix of cosmic and mystic forces is all that already started to wear away at space-time. And then you have Hulk bringing everyone back. And then you have Tony, snapping back at Thanos. And then you have Wanda doing the Westview stuff. And then you have Loki and Sylvie messing around with the timeline. And then she, like, runs He Who Remains through.
No.
And that, like, all the while, like, space-time is getting, like, it's almost like it's a dam during a storm.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like those first couple hits it could tank. And then it took another, and then it took another, and then it took another, and then the dam was breached.
And I also, like, I'm looking at, like, what you're saying there, and people are really confused. They're like, wait, but if Venom gets zapped into the MCU right when the timeline breaks, why is that right when Peter's identity is outed and he's on the TV and not during the spell that Doctor Strange does? And I'm like, I think we're going to realize that when he pulls different things from different multiverses, it's not in that exact moment. So they're going to be displaced in different times. So it's like, if we get Norman Osborn, which he's coming back because we saw the pumpkin and stuff, right? We could feasibly find out that as originally what they wanted to do was have Norman Osborn be the guy on the phone with Sharon Carter. We could find out that maybe he's been in the MCU for a couple years operating to bring up everything, and he is Oscorp. And we're like, bro, they were displaced for years in some instances. That would, I think, in my opinion, work better. So Venom being there right when that happens, I think, works way better in terms of storytelling than just everybody at the same time. That's just my opinion. I think it's more creative.
I don't need to be this aroused on camera. Oh my god, I love that idea so much. Oh, I love that idea so friggin' much. But yeah, I think that there's like, and then I think that's part of why the spell will fail in No Way Home, is that it now maybe it's not directly addressed in the movie. It's just one of those things that like I'll probably end up inferring is that you have Peter messing with the spell, like Strange says in the trailer. But I also think a part of it is the fact that just space time is really fragile right now. Like all 6 Infinity Stones over the course of 5 years were used like 4 or 5 times, all of which in very close succession of each other. No, 2 times, 2 snaps with each gauntlet. So, you have that and like all the other examples I gave earlier. I like the idea that like, Strange is going into it arrogant as all hell and half cocked, as he is not rare to do as a character.
Yeah.
Also, not realizing that like space time is hanging on by a thread, and even if Peter didn't mess with the spell, there's a good chance just because the timeline is literally folding in on itself this way that it wouldn't have worked. No matter what he did. This always would have been the outcome, is that something got messed up. And I also, because I kept hearing people try to explain what the scene was like, and it was almost like they were implying Venom transported them across the multiverse.
I think people misunderstood that line, because if you listen back to it, Venom says he can tap into 80 plus billion years of existence. Fun fact, our universe has only existed for 7.8 billion years. And he specifically mentions in the multiverse. So the Venom symbiotes are connected all throughout the multiverse. So when he knows Spider-Man, he's like, oh, one of my other symbiotes saw him. Obviously inferring Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man fighting Eddie Brock in 3. He's aware of that, and now he's got his own Spider-Man to fight. So it's like, but trying to explain it, though, it was hard because they compile all this dialogue in 5 seconds, and then suddenly a sound wave hits the screen and shakes it, and then there's a beam of light. It's like, is this an X-Files mixed with an LSD trip? What am I watching? And then it's like, oh, there's Spider-Man. Okay, it's like very light on explanation, which is bad, but we gotta wait.
Yeah, and I think that it's weird because like when Venom is speaking, I think they're like the way, like the sequence of events there, I think kind of messes with people. Will be messing with people because he's clearly doing the whole, oh well, I have access to like this hive mind across the multiverse to set up why he knows who or what Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
But that's not the explainer for why they shifted. It's all going to be so messy and convoluted, but I'm really glad that the MCU has like committed this hard to the multiverse in Phase 4, so that we can like so that they have the free range to just do weird shit like this, and commit to it. But Travis, I've been talking for a hot minute. Anything else with the post-credit scene? Just because I've been jib jabbering.
It might be because like pre-Strange Boom, it's at night, and post-Strange Boom, it's day. I liked, because we were talking about when we were watching the first one together, that like you said someone had mentioned it looks like it should be in the Garfield universe.
Yeah,
Andrew Garfield, like the Amazing Spider-Man universe. And I said, yeah, because it has the Sony shot composition, like a lot of like not quite lens flares, but a lot of blues and like clean square areas, and like trying to be like not quite futuristic, but like a little ahead of modern in its look, and that melts away after they get transported, right? Like all of a sudden it's daytime, it's colorful, it's a shot that looks like it could be in the MCU, and they're seeing the Tom Holland thing. I'm not sure. See, I thought it was at the moment of Strange's spell, because it doesn't look like, I was trying to listen. It didn't sound like J.K. Simmons was saying we have the identity of Spider-Man.
That was something else. Thank you for saying
yeah.
that. I think you're right.
It was
I
like
think
he was
it's a
continuing
rebroadcast.
coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or he's like, Peter Parker is still out at large and we're working on getting him or whatever.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I also, the more we see of J. Jonah Alex Jones, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just my favorite thing ever. Also, you're going down, asshole. He lost 3 of the lawsuits about the Sandy Hook shit this weekend.
Ooh.
Yeah, listen to the most recent Knowledge Fight, everybody. They had the attorney representing the Sandy Hook families on for an interview to explain what is happening with the lawsuit. And as much as myself, and I know Armin gets a good kick out of Alex Jones.
Oh yes.
I think we're entering a world pretty soon where InfoWars is no more. And as much as I love my gay frog memes, I think the world would be a better place for it. But that's neither here nor there. Do we think Venom is going to be in No Way Home at this point? Like, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know. Like this isn't me asking so that, like, I legitimately want to hear your guys' thoughts. I don't know what direction to go with this. We know there were reshoots recently. Like, I don't.
So on one hand, I feel like because of how many people we heard about being on set, like, and that's how we found out about like Alfred Molina and stuff, that we would have heard about Tom Hardy being on set.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand,
that's a good point. They've not done a good job of plugging these leaks.
But does Tom Hardy really need to be on set if he never shows up as only Eddie Brock?
Right.
And he just shows up as Venom?
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I'm in the belief that he's missing the entire film. At the end of the film, where Peter Parker has been taken care of, it's restored. Maybe people know his identity, maybe they don't. We're going to see Peter, like, going off to college or something, or getting his own apartment. And his neighbor is going to knock on the door, being like, hey, welcome to the apartment, kid. It's Eddie Brock. And it's going to be like, oh, the post-credit stinger. That he knows, but he's not going to let him know that he's like, that type of tease, something like that. I think post-credit at most, because, look, we already got the Sinister Six. And who knows what else? There's so much, like, at this point, this film is literally becoming, this film can't live up to my expectations. Well, that's because you want, like, Mace Windu to show up and cut down, Dr. Octavius. I don't know what more you want. Like, come on. Like, you can't toss Venom in there as well. Like, that feels too much to me. So I think only post-credits.
That seems realistic.
It does, but by the same token, like, when has that ever stopped any of the people involved with this movie?
Well, and the other thing.
Let me rephrase that. When has that ever stopped the Sony half of this movie?
That's what I'm saying, is that I think by now we would have seen it. Like, by now we would have gotten a teaser, like,
or some form of late.
Hello, Peter.
Son of a bitch. Tom Hardy had that production hat.
Yeah.
I just remembered there's that picture of him where he has like a No Way Home set hat.
Oh, well.
But then again, he may have just been doing voice lines.
I mean,
like, I don't know. There's there's so many avenues here. Or just because he's technically a producer at Sony now.
Right. I mean, remember there was the director of Morbius a couple weeks ago where he was like, I love my job. I walked that. Yeah, right. He's like, I walked that on set. And there's, Morbius, played by Jared Leto. There's Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton. There's Tom Hardy, played as Venom. And we're going to have a great scene in Morbius. It's like, bro, we don't know anything about Morbius other than it exists. And now you just kind of drop this casually in an interview. So it's like, I feel like something would have leaked. But again, you did mention they did extensive reshoots recently, like 2.5, 3 weeks worth of reshoots, which is extensive. So maybe, like, I would love to see it, but a part of me is like, I don't know if I can handle that much going on. Like, that's a lot.
It is. It really is. And I'm just so curious as to what the hell is happening. You know, like and again, and I'll take it even a step further. You know, like I even said, like, No Way Home has had a horrible time trying to plug leaks. By the same token, you know, and obviously, like, just because one did a thing doesn't mean another project can or will. But just in the realm of possibilities, Mandalorian season 2. We knew about everything before that show came out.
Yep.
Except for one thing. And that one thing became the thing everybody talked about. We knew about Boba Fett. We knew about Cobb Vanth. We knew about Ahsoka. Like, we knew about all of this stuff going into Mando season 2. They managed to keep Luke under lock and key. Now, again, you cannot put that same exact, like, you know, oh, they'll find a way to keep, like, to protect the big one. But quite frankly, the big one is the other two Spider-Men, which, like, we know at this point. You know, like, Andrew Garfield is at the point where he can't keep making werewolf jokes, and Toby is just literally going clubbing with Tom Holland.
And literally HD footage out there, and now dialogue of actual lines from the movie from that same scene have hit. And you look at them, you're like, this is legit. Like, this is a legit thing. They're like, we don't know what you're talking about. It's like, guys, come on.
Don't play
Like,
stupid with us.
you're with Sony. You're allowed to say it. They're going to show it in a trailer anyway.
Exactly. Or they'll release the last 8 minutes of the movie as a trailer. Miles Morales. Terrible marketing.
I don't know, man. This is just so weird. Like, the thing that I'm most entertained by with all of this is this weird relationship where, like, Kevin Feige is Eddie Brock and Sony is the Venom symbiote, you know, where every so often Sony will do some weird shit where it's like, we're going to have a Morbius movie and Venom and the Vulture are going to be in it. And then Kevin has to somehow be like, and here's the multiverse. And oh no, Sylvie King killed Kang the Conqueror. Everything's collapsing in on itself. And here's why that will you knock it the hell off, Amy? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, there's just all of this. Like, that's exact. Like, that is the vibe.
No, we can't do a Madam Web movie. We told you.
One of my favorite headlines I ever read. Like, that might be the fastest I've ever sent a link to a story to Travis. It was just like, oh, Monday's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Fucking Madam Web movie, because why not?
Don't forget, they're still developing, like, Jackpot.
God, that's right. There's a Jackpot movie. One of the best pieces of content I ever consumed in my life was that from 1,000 years ago, the CBC Sony email special.
Oh, Lord. Oh, those leaks. Those were something.
Oh, my God.
It's like,
I just remember, I have a vivid memory of Christmas time, whatever year that was, in the basement at my Nana's house while my brother is playing Minecraft on the Xbox, and I'm watching this episode on my phone. And, like, normally it would be very like, put your headphones in. I don't want to listen to your nerd shit. But even he was like, what the hell is going on at Sony?
yeah.
He's like, did he just say Aunt May Secret Agent movie? Yes, he just said Secret Agent Aunt May movies. Oh, okay. My head hurts.
Yeah. Oh.
And never let them live that down, everybody. Never, ever let them live Secret Agent Aunt May down. They don't get to get away with that shit. But yeah, I think that's all we got. So we can do final thoughts and letter grades. And Armin is our guest. I give you the floor, sir.
All right. So I don't letter grade or number grade anything anymore. I just kind of let me speak about it, and people can gauge if I enjoyed it or not. And I'll say if I did or not. Yeah, I enjoyed Let There Be Carnage far more than the first. It's a film I'm actually going to rewatch and not be angry that I have to rewatch. Like, I'm actually looking forward to doing an audio commentary for it. And generally, I'm intrigued to see where the character goes next and how they tie, it all together. So it gets a thumbs up from me, and I can't believe Sony got their way. That's really the takeaway. They got their way. They're in the MCU now, so we'll see what happens.
All righty, Travis.
I didn't tell you guys. I got this great deal at the movie theater. I paid, I think, $6 for my ticket, and I got an entire movie with that end credit scene. It was crazy.
Amazing deal.
Yeah, it's insane. I like this one better than the first one. Having watched them next to each other, I can safely affirm that. Even though I did not hate the first one as much as I thought I would. But definitely the fact that this one was only an hour and a half and kind of knew what it wanted to be, at least perceptually knew what it wanted to be, and for the most part had fun with it. I enjoyed this in the same way that I really enjoyed Aquaman. I can see that there are flaws. I see that there are flaws. I recognize that there are flaws. I enjoyed watching this. I had fun watching it. It's probably like a C+, but it engaging with like my enjoyment is probably a B.
Okay. I think I'm in a similar camp as you. I came out of the first one very like I enjoyed the first one in the same way I enjoy The Room. Like every time I was like, oh yeah, I saw Venom. People were like, oh, what'd you think about it? Like my immediate response would be to like try to describe the lobster tank scene. Right, and be like, this actually happened in the movie. I'll let that guide whether or not you want to see it. I think the second one blows the first one out of the water. Like if I were to give Venom the first one a letter grade, I think it's looking at like maybe a D+ to a C-. This I enjoyed it a lot more. I think like it's much more interesting to look at. I think that it embraces just being in a comic book world. Everybody's acting their asses off. Woody Harrelson is just as scenery chewing as he should be. Pardon me. As Cletus Cassidy, I think a muted performance I think it would have been the missed opportunity to try to do Cletus Cassidy with any amount of subtlety. So going for balls to the wall, like I'm fucking crazy, for Cletus Cassidy was the way to go. So I really enjoyed his performance. The action was incredible. I enjoyed the soundtrack. I think the sense of humor was way more on the money. The relationship between Eddie and Venom is hysterical. I'm proud of Venom for coming out of the Eddie closet, which I honked at that line, just that whole scene. There was another line of dialogue that was one thing. There are some lines that are just really hammy and bad, that like, and not in the fun way, in the like, there's gonna be carnage kind of way. It's just like, what? Who wrote this? It was something Eddie said to Venom after they found out Anne was engaged. But on the whole, I quite enjoyed this movie. I don't think, again, like, do I think it's great? No. Do I freaking love it? Yeah. I'm feeling strong C+ to a low B-. Yeah, had a good time with this one. Armin, where can the lovely people find you, my friend?
I don't really know. They can find me wherever the fuck. Find me YouTube. Just type in Comic Book Cast or go to, I don't know, wherever the hell. It's Facebook. There you go. Comic Book Cast on Facebook. We post memes. There you go.
They post great memes.
It's just memes all day.
go watch Comic Book Cast. If you're watching this, you're probably watching it because Armin is dumb enough to give me a platform. They bring us around a lot, and I don't know why.
I mean, you're no doomcock when it comes to reporting, but you're good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've missed a lot of stories of people getting fired.
Yeah, truly. Speaking of that crowd, Armin being one of the people who tried in the most delicate way to talk me off of the Alex Jones ledge a couple weeks ago. That there are some very mean people in those comments. I was expecting it. But there are some people who have like got very creative ways of calling me fat that I'm impressed with. So kudos to them. But yeah, if you guys are somehow watching us and not Comic Book Cast, go watch. They're the best. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I do what I do because I'm ripping Armin off. Like that's just I own that shit. That is what it is. But yeah, thanks for coming by as always, my friend.
Always.
Travis, where can the lovely people find you?
They can find me tweeting images of distress when I am in great distress on Twitter and Instagram at Travis Political. Straight up, I tweeted that picture yesterday or 2 days ago. 2 days ago. Left work early. I left work at like 5. Came home, fell asleep, and didn't wake up until like 9:30 the next morning.
Sometimes we need that. I've done that before too, where I fell asleep. And yeah, you needed that, and I'm glad you got it.
Jarod.
Yes.
Where?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page.
Give me a number!
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Feige's Boomer Burner, Delta 9, Zach Canals, The Waffle Wizard, Michael Armburst, and Alex Jones's Gayest Frog. Also, shout out to our very generous $5 patron, Armin.
Yeah.
Speaking of the $5 tier, at the $5 tier, you guys get access to the Nerd Academy, the Knights of the Nerd Republic versus series. Coyote Mundi versus Lord Vindicant is out now. Spencer and I are going to be trying to record Skier versus Savaggio Press this week. By the end of the month, we'll have Dark Knight's Medal up for Heroic History 101. And fingers crossed, we're going to be doing some horror stuff for Movie Club if we can find the time. So keep your eyes out for all of that. Be sure to check out the student store link on our website. Take you to our TeePublic page. They got all manner of Nerd Academy merch and goodies. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are Venom, and class dismissed.
Stop!